Hey guys, ChrisFix here, and today I'm going to show you how to replace a muffler bearing on your car or your truck. In this case, we're going to be replacing the muffler bearing on my Mustang because, well, take a listen to this. You could easily hear that this isn't the normal V8 rumble we should be hearing. The exhaust sounds like it's from a mail truck, which, by the way, little fun fact, the muffler bearings in mail trucks and even some Hondas are defective right out of the factory, which is why they almost always sound like this. Now, not only is it embarrassing to drive around with a bad muffler bearing, but you can damage your exhaust, so you want to make sure that you replace your muffler bearings as soon as possible. And another thing, if your mechanic tells you that he needs to replace the muffler bearings, find a new mechanic because he's ripping you off. You could easily replace the muffler bearings at home using common tools. So after you're done watching this video, be sure to share this with your friends because I hate seeing people get ripped off. So how do you know if the muffler bearing in your car is bad? We already talked about the most common symptom, which is a raspy Honda exhaust sound like this. You might also see some smoke coming out of your exhaust, which could indicate the bearing is burning up from exhaust friction. And finally, to verify 100% that the muffler bearing is bad, you need to grab some soapy water and go under the car and look at the exhaust. And now that we're under the car, the front of the car is that way, the rear of the car is that way, a common misconception is that muffler bearings are located in the muffler, and that's just not true. They're located between the muffler and the catalytic converter, which is right there, so this stretch of pipe right here. And you can see we have a dual exhaust. We have an exhaust pipe here and an exhaust pipe on the other side. So there's actually two muffler bearings. So at this point, we're not really sure if there's only one muffler bearing that's bad or if there's two that are bad. So to figure that out, grab some soapy water, spray down the exhaust, and then start up the engine. Now we just want to inspect and look for any bubbling, and this sticks out like a sore thumb. So the driver's side muffler bearing is bad, and if we take a quick look on the passenger side, that muffler bearing looks fine. So there's our bad muffler bearing. Now let's shut the car off before the exhaust gets too hot and it's hard to work on. Alright, so we found the bad muffler bearing, and now I'm going to show you how to install a brand new one. And for those of you who don't know what muffler bearings are or what they do, well, they extend muffler life so you could have your muffler last a good long time. They also reduce exhaust friction, very important for good fuel economy and good power output. They maintain proper back pressure, which is important for the exhaust. And this is a high quality muffler bearing. It uses patented vibration damping bearings in the muffler bearing. So you definitely want to install a high quality muffler bearing so you don't have to do this again. And if you aren't sure which muffler bearing you need for your car, just call up the local parts store and ask them. In addition to your muffler bearing, you're also going to want to pick up some high temperature elbow grease. It's very important that you pick up the high temperature elbow grease because the exhaust on a car gets very hot. And with that, that's really it. Otherwise, we're just using common tools. I'm not going to be using a welder. I'll show you how to do it without a welder, so if you don't have one, you could still easily do this at home. And one more thing, can't forget about those safety glasses. So let's begin. So the first thing we need to do is cut that exhaust right near the muffler bearing. You could do that with a few different tools. In this case, I'm using this reciprocating saw. And we're going to want to cut right where that bad muffler bearing is. We want to cut this as straight as possible so the pipes will line up evenly when we put everything back together after we replace the muffler bearings. And be sure to use a thin blade so you don't remove too much material. Alright, this carbide blade cut through that like butter. I thought I was going to actually have to detach this exhaust piece, but the exhaust just hung down like that, so that's perfect. Now we could go and look inside our exhaust, and you could actually see the muffler bearing right there. So you just want to carefully reach in there. Oh man, this thing is all broken. So there's the bearing race. And there is the muffler bearing. Check out that carnage there. So you can see all these bearings on the side here that reduces the exhaust friction. Well, we're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, and a little bit of metal. So what you want is you want to grab a magnet. One of these magnets on a stick helps. And you just go in here and you feel around. Okay, we got some. And you want to make sure that you remove these, because if you don't remove these bearing pieces from the exhaust, when you put that new muffler bearing in and seal this all up, your bearings could travel into the muffler, and then you'll get that like rattle can raspy exhaust sound, which you don't want. So with the old bearing out, then we could go and grab our new muffler bearing. If we compare it to the old bearing is this old two-piece style, which isn't as good as this one-piece bearing. You can see this bearing allows more exhaust flow, and this is a sealed bearing, so it's less likely to go bad compared to this one, which is not sealed, it's two pieces. So we're gonna install this one. So let's get our high temperature elbow grease. It comes with a nice brush applicator, and you want to coat the outside of the bearing with a thin layer around the whole bearing. Perfect, now we can install the muffler bearing. And just in case you decide to use the stock 2-piece muffler bearing, make sure you put the high temperature elbow grease on the bearings as well as the outside race. Since we have a sealed bearing, we don't have any bearings on the inside to lubricate, so we only lubricated the outside. Now installing the bearing is really easy. You want to make sure it goes in straight and push it all the way in until it seats itself and can't go any further. Just like that. With the new muffler bearing in place, now we want to put the exhaust back together. I'm using an exhaust clamp which just slides over the exhaust like so. Then you line up the 2 pipes and tighten down the bolts one side at a time. Be sure to keep tightening each bolt little by little so the clamp could tighten down evenly and we don't have any exhaust leaks. If you're tightening it down with an impact gun, you want to tighten it to about 3 to 4 ugga-duggas. Good. And there we go, our new muffler bearing's in there, and this looks perfect. It's clamped down. Let's go start the car up and make sure it doesn't leak. All right, moment of truth. Let's see how she sounds with the new muffler bearings in. And that sounds more like it. Man, that sounds good. Now let's check for leaks. And that looks really good. I don't hear any exhaust leaks. I'm gonna grab some soapy water and spray it down. Nothing's bubbling up, so we're not getting any exhaust leaks, which is perfect. Now that is what a Mustang should sound like. And there you go, that's everything you need to know on how to replace a muffler bearing. Just a little top tip, whenever you replace a muffler bearing, it's always a good idea to check your blinker fluid and top it off. So if we look at our blinker fluid on the Mustang, all you have to do is give it a few taps and you can see it's completely full, so we're good. But that wasn't the case on my truck, so I do have a video on how to replace the blinker fluid, just in case you need to, and I'll link that in the description. And one more top tip will come around the side here. On all 4 of your tires, it's always a good idea to remove the cold, dense, and heavy winter air from your tires and fill it up with some nice, fresh, light summer air. Good. So hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, remember to give it a thumbs up and be sure to share this video with your friends so they can learn how to replace their muffler bearing. Just make sure they watch all the way to the end because I would hate for them to think they have to do this. And with that being said, April Fools! Hopefully you guys got a good laugh from this video. I always do this once a year. It's a lot of fun, but my real videos are all about fixing, maintaining, and repairing your cars. So be sure to hit that subscribe button to see all those videos, and who knows what next year's video will bring. And one final thing, in every one of my videos, including this one, I always link the products that I use in that video in the description. So whether you want some blinker fluid or some muffler bearings, go check it out.